Weird. We.
I think we may be live now, but usually Gino comes back and tells me. But I hear you guys. Can you hear me, Beth?
I can hear you. We
And
would
can
usually
you,
play the opening and you can hear it.
yeah, can you hear me, Brandon?
Yes, sorry, I had to unmute, but
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I
We
think
don't.
Yeah,
Gino
We
we're
don't
has.
live,
usually.
Beth.
Oh, we are.
We're
Okay.
live,
We are
Beth.
live. Yeah, I figured we were. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today here on Becca's World on Rumble for another exciting episode of The Blind View. I know it's been several months since we shot an episode of The Blind View, but we've all been
Mhm.
busy with stuff, right? I mean, the world's been going through a lot of changes as well as have all of us, you know. And we've been going through a lot of changes here at BBE Enterprises and BBE Entertainment. But I wanted to let you guys know that we have a couple of new people joining us today. We have Beth from Colorado and Brandon from here in Phoenix. How are you guys?
Hey, doing all right, doing all right. Thank you for having me as a member of the panel today or as a guest today. I'm genuinely appreciative.
Thank you, Brandon. How are you, Beth?
I'm doing good. Just I have a lovely, awesome, talented cook over there in the kitchen who's working on a weird original. I have taco shells I want to get rid of, and I've got little chicken and that, and it's like, wow. And I've come up with a crazy idea for what I call a weird food concept. But then again,
Okay.
it usually is very delicious. So yeah.
Well, you know, Beth, we might be able to explore some of that on a future show. And I would also
Mhm,
like to have you on a future show
mhm,
so we can discuss our mutual experiences with guardianship
mhm.
abuse, because that would
Definitely.
be of interest to people. And we could discuss
Mhm.
our mutual experiences as blind mothers.
Yeah.
And we have lots of things in common, you and I do. But
Thank you.
today we are discussing this recent presidential election and how we're all feeling about it.
Mhm.
Um, would one of you like to talk about it first or?
Um, if we go ladies first, I'll go first. No, I mean,
I'm
no
I'm
offense,
totally fine.
gentlemen.
I'm totally fine with that actually because you know what?
Mhm,
Speaking of food, what you said earlier, I need to go
mhm,
pull a lasagna out of the oven right now. So
mhm.
absolutely, I'll
Yeah,
take my phone with me, but I'm gonna you're not
right,
gonna see me, but I'll still be around.
Mhm.
right,
Okay,
right.
I'm
And
sorry.
Beth and I can talk in the meantime, and you just go
Mhm,
ahead and join in when you can, Brandon.
mhm,
Okay, I'll be right
Okay,
back.
Beth, go ahead and would
mhm.
you
Talk
share
about
with the
life.
viewers how you've been
Mhm.
feeling since the recent
Well,
election and maybe how you felt
mm.
before it and
Oh yeah.
you know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah. Well, first of all, I'd like to apologize to Mr. Brandon over there because I mentioned food. And there are certain people, when you say food, all of a sudden their tummies start to rumble and they're like, now I got to get something to eat. I'm like, man, what did I do?
Oh
And
yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with you. Brandon has a family and children. I think he's just making food for himself or his family,
well, I
probably.
know, but I mean, it's just the way people are. When I sometimes like I'll describe food and their mouths begin to water. That's just how I am.
Mhm.
I have a
Right.
tendency to make everybody hungry. So anyway,
No, Beth, I'd like to circle back to the
hmm
topic of
right,
the show, though, which
right.
is the
hmm
recent presidential
So,
election, and
oh,
because we
definitely.
wanted to know how people are
hmm
feeling about it out there. As a blind woman,
hmm
how
hmm
have you been feeling since the presidential election on Tuesday?
Well, I honestly think that the American people, they should be ashamed of themselves, and I'm ashamed of my country. Several reasons.
Okay.
Um, there have been lots of destructive stuff that's happened to me all my life, which is a reflection of a lot of other blind females. Um, as a blind female, my class of people are at a very high risk of abuse. And aside from guardianship abuse, which you and I have both been through, Becca, I was also a survivor of a range of abuses that could be classifiable under domestic violence or abuse. Um, and this was sadly by a Trump supporter. Now, what I found out too, when I found out Trump actually won for the second time, a lot of
Uh-huh.
things didn't really surprise me. For example, the red pill manosphere groups had been, funneling and channeling their misinformation and spreading their stories. And I actually had happened to have read a book that helped me understand the manosphere. And it's so weird because, like,
Beth,
I
what is the
remember,
manosphere? I've never heard of that. Can you
oh,
enlighten me?
oh, sure. It's okay. It's a group of man groups, different varying degrees of violence. Some call themselves incels, which are involuntary celibates.
Mm-hmm.
Others are pickup artists, PUAs. They are the type who they're kind of weird. They kind of like their idea is to go take what you want. And incels and pickup artists operate on the idea that women are sexual vending machines. And Laura Bates tells us in her book, Men Who Hate Women, incels tell us that, women only give to, they only put out for those they believe are good. So their idea is let's make them pay up because we don't like what they're doing. But then PUAs claim that
So,
they know which buttons to push to get what they want out of the machine. That's it.
okay,
And then you
Beth,
have,
Beth, with all due
mhm,
respect, most
yes,
of our viewers haven't read the book you're referring to, and they don't
I
know
can
the
give them the
acronyms you're making
right.
reference to.
Oh, that's
And
understand. I
the
can give them
topic
the
of the show is the
mhm.
election. So can we
Yes,
stick
I
to the topic?
understand. But these groups did help Trump. And I am also speaking as a survivor of the kinds of abuses that line up with these groups and Trump.
Now,
And
Beth, but
mhm,
can you
I'm
clarify
back now,
what
guys.
groups you're talking about, please? Because I'm not clear on
mhm,
what groups you're talking about. You mentioned some
okay,
acronyms. Give us some
right.
names of some groups, please, not just
Right. Okay.
acronyms.
All right. Well, PUA is pick up artists. They are people who just take what they want in terms of women.
So
I
is
was
that
the
a
survivor.
slang term or is that an actual group pickup artists?
It's a group that refers to different people that claim they can basically take from women like at bars and such.
So
It's hard to
is
explain.
this like government action committee or
No,
so is
they're
this
a
is simply a slang term you've come up
right.
with, right?
No, it's not something I came up with.
Who
Pickup is
came
an
up with
art.
it?
Okay. Pickup is an art form that is apparently it's harmful. Basically,
Are,
it's
are
manuals
these
for sex abuse.
artists you're referring to since it's an art form,
Mm.
you said?
Well, they say it's an art form. They say it's
Oh,
an art form. And these people, and I was abused by what's called a men's rights activist. He had been posting a lot of fathers should have more rights than mothers. He had posted stuff about disdain for single moms, but it didn't help that he was all MAGA, MAGA, Trump, Trump. And he
are
even
you
told me
sure he
that
was posting stuff about more rights for fathers or equal rights for fathers?
I think he said more rights for fathers because the way he said stuff about mothers was disturbing. I mean, he would say mothers get too much support, which isn't really true. I mean, I should know. And the way Trump's previous administration had acted.
Beth. I think
Mhm,
you're confusing your
mhm.
disputes with this
No,
previous boyfriend of yours who
no,
apparently
no,
was a
no, no, no,
Trump
no. Hold on a minute.
with President
And
Trump because we're supposed to
but
be speaking about the election here and you're bringing up
right.
this
Okay, but I'm
boyfriend.
trying. Okay, the problem is that the election, I think, may have enabled more violence by people like my prior boyfriend, because the people supporting Trump are those who want to see us women, especially you and me, subjugated. I am having to warn half my friends.
Beth, with all due respect, I really feel
Mhm,
like you are
mhm,
putting Trump supporters into a huge box. I happen to be
mhm,
a Trump supporter, and you're sitting here telling me
uh-huh.
that I want to subjugate myself. And that's
I'm not saying it's
false.
you. You
Oh,
may
you
have
said it. You
reasons you.
said Trump supporters. Guess who I am, girlfriend? I'm a Trump supporter.
That's true, but you're also
So
saying something.
I'm a red-blooded man. She's saying it about people like me, but I'll wait patiently to respond.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
go
the,
ahead. Let's give Brandon a chance to talk too, Beth, because he's
right.
a guy and he deserves a chance to talk too.
Well,
Well, no, but
Brandon,
I kind of do want you to finish your point, Beth. How in the world are incels and pickup artists related to the election?
Yeah, that's what I'd
because
like to know,
they
Beth.
because they were online. They have been, I mean, Trump obviously has shown sympathy for these people. They believe women are not people. I mean, the way they talk about women,
Trump
as
has
reported by,
shown. When did he throw? When did Trump show sympathy for incels and pickup artists? I'm confused, Beth.
oh, well, he's showed sympathy for a lot of different types of questionable men in his prior administration. When Brett Kavanaugh was nominated to the Supreme Court,
Okay,
I'm
go ahead.
trying to, can you let me finish?
Mhm.
So when Trump said it's a scary time to be a man in America, the problem is that many women survivors of DV don't get enough resources as we sit here. And to say that it's a scary time to be a man in America is kind of confusing to me because Brandon over here sounds like a really nice guy. And there are just a few different things in terms of human decency that all men should do. I mean, you would think that every man would learn, for example, not to do what Brett Kavanaugh had been accused of doing. You would
Um,
think
can,
that a young
can you
boy,
clarify what Brett Kavanaugh was accused of doing for our viewers, just so they know what you're
oh,
referring
sure.
to?
It was that, okay, Christine Blasey Ford had come onto the stand to talk about an incident involving Mr. Brent Kavanaugh and some friend of his. I forget the name, was it Mark or whatever? But it was, Christine talked about how Brent was laughing at her expense, was inappropriately advancing on her at her expense, that kind of stuff. And then Donald Trump, once, Brent was somewhere either to nomination or whatever, I recall hearing him say, it's a scary time to be a man in America. The problem
Okay,
is,
Beth, can I
mhm,
address those things? I have to
right.
agree with President Trump. It is a scary time to be a man in America. And
Mhm,
and the things
mhm,
that you just accused Brett Kavanaugh of doing, the
mhm,
things you accused him of, those are things that Americans do to each other all through life. It starts in when we're small children. We start needling each
mhm.
other and poking fun at each other and using each other as examples from very early childhood.
Mhm.
It's part of socialization and communication.
But
I don't
not
understand
sexual
what you're
assault. And
referring
that's not,
to.
it was not my
Who
accusation.
who
It was
who sexually assaulted somebody?
Christine Blasey Ford was the
Right.
one who came forward about the story,
She
but
came forward with accusations. These apparently
right.
weren't accusations. That were these accusations ever, like, did she ever press, were charges pressed? Was there a trial? What happened with those
Mhm.
accusations?
Well, we first have to take a look at Christine's mind after this happened.
Are you
Many
saying
victims,
that,
like
right?
my,
Are you, with all this, with all due
Mhm,
respect, Beth, are you saying that
mhm,
her mind was such that her account may not be
mhm.
trustworthy?
No, I'm saying that when victims are treated as they are, as I had been, it takes time to process that crap. When, for example, I was subjected to non fatal strangulation, it took me a day or two to process, and it's taken me a long
Okay,
time
now
to come to
Beth,
grips with it. That's what happened to Christine
Beth,
Blasey Ford. And
Beth,
even when
Beth,
she came forward,
Beth, let's
why?
talk about your
Becca, can
experiences
you
on
hold on
another
and let her
show.
finish?
Okay,
Just let her
Thank
finish
you.
her point,
Okay.
and
okay,
then let's
All
let
right.
Brandon speak.
okay.
Okay. What happens to Christine is she was trying to process it for years. It's taken her therapy, and for my abuse, it's the same. Like it's no different. But it's pretty sad because I think, as far as a scary time to be a man in America, um, I'm very scared of what a second Trump presidency could become. More rollbacks for, protecting rape on campus survivors. I have read extensively about what that looks like when a woman in college is inappropriately fondled or advanced upon by a man because of some idea that because he's man, he's entitled. I'm not saying all men are like that, but the escalation of violence around these people, the escalation of threats against political figures, it's mind boggling. And I do not feel safe with Trump yet again coming into the White House unless there is any excuse to protect human rights. And I speak as a survivor of domestic assault by, hold on a minute. I'm talking. I speak as a um, I speak as a survivor of domestic violence and abuse that also included non-fatal strangulation. And there was not a lot of help offered to me already after these incidents occurred. With Trump, last time he would roll back funding for these programs, my concern is after I see like before and after, rumor has it he was planning a retribution or revenge tour. That concerns me because he basically is enabling men to post hateful content on the internet, which my prior boyfriend, this is not a personal dispute either. I watched my previous boyfriend post cussing language toward the opponents of Trump and then insulted, lambasted her supporters. F. Kamala Harris and her supporters popped up on a TikTok video. I'm concerned this is not setting a good example to be clear, for any young boy or man in America. This is even distracting from what positive we can do for this country. And that's a reality check that I've had to come to grips with. And
Okay.
I feel like
So,
no one
Beth,
is.
if we can let Brandon jump in now, because you've
Yeah,
brought like
sure.
I mean several points, and so he needs a chance to address some of these,
Okay.
and then
Brandon.
Becca can address them as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, okay, first of all, let me just say, genuinely and sincerely, I am sorry that you know you have to deal, or at least attempt to deal, right, with trauma. Trauma is not an easy thing to deal with. I recognize that it's not. It doesn't get dealt with quickly. So my perspective may be somewhat unique in that my wife is actually a survivor of sexual abuse. However, I don't. So okay. What I'll say is, yeah, I do agree that there is a such thing as toxic masculinity, although that is a word that does make me a bit uncomfortable, because yes, I do feel like I wouldn't personally use the word scary, but I definitely would use the word challenging, and I will add, not to be or even seem inflammatory, but it is a challenge to be a white man in America today. So I don't think that should be the case, and but now I might inflame you a little bit, because I'll just let you know here now, I really am not supportive of the whole DEI agenda. I'm more supportive of equality and merit than I am the DEI agenda, which might be a bit surprising to some, because I am blind, and so it might be surprising, but no, I'm. That's just where I'm at. And I feel like the whole DEI agenda has been used against, well, men in general, and so yeah, I'm not very supportive of it.
I understand, Brandon, but my only response to not support the DEI agenda was put in place, though, because routinely we see throughout history that white males, not necessarily you personally, but when white men collectively are in charge of everything, we see a collective disrespect for the human rights of everybody else. White men are not the only men on this earth.
Beth, I want you to stop speaking in such broad generalities,
What?
because I have to disagree with them.
Well,
I mean, I would just add this. I mean, it was the Africans that sold their own people into slavery. Now, does America have a picture perfect past? No, we don't. But, does Russia have a picture perfect past? No, they don't. Does North Korea have a picture perfect past? No, they don't. So, we're not alone in America. Although again, I want to differentiate, and delineate that. No, I'm not happy with, admittedly, some of my forefathers likely did treat African Americans. I do think it was unjust and reprehensible. However, it really bothers me that certain sects of the African American community, as an example, and there are others, are trying to make me feel bad and speaking to me in a pejorative manner. It's like, look, and I'm gonna use somewhat inflammatory rhetoric here. I'm not the one. I've never cracked a single whip on anyone. Okay.
That's true. And I've actually been called an inflammatory word by some guy on an extremist channel. I was trying to address something that the host had said, and um, I was called a cracker. Yeah, I think it was spelled with a K, but it's a common slur they say against white people. I'll admit I do not necessarily assign my associations with that word. Florida, as I had been born there, we are called crackers, but I've kind of distanced myself from that word because of that recent inculcation with that slur. Um, as for
Oh,
Africans
I
and
can't I can't stand that word. That word
no,
that word hurts my feeling. Although I do flip it around and in jest I say to people, you know what? I'm not just a cracker. I'm a salty cracker. Don't forget it. But when I say that, I'm only speaking in jest. I'm only speaking in jest. I don't
yeah.
again I don't think that
Mhm,
if you identify as a woman, I am going to use the
mhm,
term woman, but if you identify as a
mhm,
woman, no, I don't
mhm.
harbor hatred against you or disdain
That's
against
fine.
you, or I see in fact no reason to do that. I think you can do pretty much anything that a man can do.
That's very nice. I mean, that's a good way to put it. That's you personally, but the overall air after the election, it just feels like it's going to turn sour. I mean, I have buddies on all sides of the sexual and gender spectra, and I've also
Beth,
just
Beth, I
Mhm,
first of all, um,
mhm.
what are you saying is going to turn sour since the election? You're talking about something sexual turning sour?
No, no, I'm talking about the overall treatment of everything in America
Alexa, stop.
in
I'm
terms
sorry.
of like education.
Okay.
I know that there's a lot of controversy around and the DEI programs, by the way. I used to go to Florida State, and Florida now is banned DEI programs on there. I can't even imagine going to college there because of that. But if it weren't for DEI programs, I probably wouldn't have a lot of advocacy in the disabled office there at Florida State. I mean, they're supposed to be writing accommodations, making sure I get access to
Beth,
the
with all
material.
due respect, can we get back on the
Mhm.
topic at hand?
But this election means that now we have a federal guy who's going to be like, no DEI anywhere. I mean, we've already got
As Trump said
Raleigh
that.
down there.
Beth, when did
But
Trump say no DEI anywhere? I wish you guys would stop putting words in his mouth.
Well, and in fact, that I will say Trump has
mhm,
has said that he's going to eliminate tax on Social Security. Now, and anyway, another problem that I have with DEI is I don't even really from my vantage point,
mhm.
it's not even really applicable to blind people. It doesn't mean blind. It's far more related to ethnicity and race than blind people.
Right.
It doesn't. I
Or
mean,
gender, you know what I mean? Right? Don't you
But it could
think?
have been expanded to include the blind. I mean, yeah, race and ethnicity, but it's because
I think what
most of the
Brandon's saying is
Mhm.
the discrimination doesn't really apply to the blind community either.
Well,
Like,
that's true in a
I
lot
mean,
of
we are
respects.
discriminated against in some regards because of our
Mhm.
blindness, but in a lot of areas, I feel like we actually have a leg up and that we actually are given
Mm.
favor in a lot of areas in life as blind people.
My story could tell you otherwise. I mean, everyone's lives are different, but it all depends. It kind of depends upon where a blind person is, and every blind person's story to me, it kind of feels like water. You know, you have to kind of go with the current. And for me, grade after grade in school was a lot like some of my other friends. It was, I was judged. I had to conform to cited norms and standards. It got to a point where I said, you know, why are we so obsessed with that? My parents weren't really of much help because
So
of,
Beth, I
I
don't
mean, we
understand
have a
how
lot
you,
of people.
Beth, I don't know
Uh-huh.
how you wandered off into this subject.
Okay, I'm
I
trying to
think
talk about
you were
my point.
talking
So,
about water
mhm.
and
I'm
referring to
trying.
the
Okay.
experience of blind people. So I think you're talking about how we all have had such different experiences in school. But
Well, hold
Trudy,
on a
I
minute.
really want
I'm.
you to try to stay focused on how has this
Mhm.
election impacted your life? Like,
Well, for
like
one, I am
in the
afraid that
last
I'm going to
4 years,
lose the.
what was your
Okay.
life like, and how do you feel like
So
this, it's going to
hold
be
on. Can I
made
jump
worse
in
or
for one
better by
second,
the
guys?
election?
Mhm.
Becca, if you guys can address something, because
Mhm.
I know the original point,
Mhm.
Becca, that you were taking umbrage with was her generalizing using these acronyms, whatever those groups are, that this is indicative of Trump and all MAGA supporters. And she just said everyone's lives are unique, everyone's lives are different. I think maybe you guys should kind of explore this, because it seems that
Mhm.
her initial contention is that he's going to empower these different male, groups, right?
Right.
So Becca, do
Mhm.
you guys want? Because that was your original point, Becca, that
Yeah,
you were taking.
I think we should discuss that some more. Beth, tell me how
Mhm.
you, so these groups, what
Mhm.
was the first acronym? It was something S.
Oh,
Well,
incels.
let me just chime in here, and I don't mind that you do this,
Mhm.
Beth. But you use the term MAGA as a pejorative, but I take it as a compliment, okay? Because I am a part of the MAGA movement. I mean, I literally am. I've given money to the campaign of Donald John Trump and JD Vance.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your issue with making America great again? I'm not really saying that you have one, but what is your issue with MAGA?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
for one, I have an issue with, well, for one, I think America is already a great country. For one, we don't get barbaric when somebody gets elected that is against somebody else. We don't jail and beat up our opponents all the time. We have
No, just
had,
during the previous administration.
oh, thanks. Mm,
It's mine, but I can't finish it. So
mhm.
do you want a snack? Can we leave it here in the corner for you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
fine.
mean,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
sent President Trump to jail.
Yeah,
Well,
they did.
no,
They indicted him.
but that was nothing about politics. He'd committed crimes. And I had
No,
a
Beth,
friend
that
who
was
went,
totally about politics. Don't you understand what's been
no.
going on the last 4 years? The
Mm.
the
Okay.
conspiracy against a duly elected president. That's why
Well,
President
what
Trump just
about
won in a
conspiracy
landslide
against the
earlier this week.
people?
Because the whole nation
What?
saw it, Beth.
Okay, but
So
what
even
about
blind people saw it. It was so obvious. Even
um
blind people could see it. Like where are you living?
okay. This isn't working. Okay, guys, do you want to know where I was on the January 6th riot day?
Where
Let
were
me
you,
talk
Beth?
about that.
Where were
I was,
I would be interested to know. Yeah.
yes, I can tell you a lot of what I know and where I was. One,
Okay.
I was sitting in my apartment. I was having an ordinary day with someone that I cared about who was African American. Okay. I
Uh-huh.
got this
Okay.
dreaded notification on my phone. It said rioters are in the Capitol. And I was like, the questions that went through my mind are the Boogaloo Boys and Proud Boys really going to tear up this country? I had already had concerns that, people were being very incendiary about me. And I had that already done. And I'm thinking, okay, what's going to happen to this country? I even thought about, for a split second, do I need to purchase a gun? Because my thought was that my safety was at risk because these rioters, when, and they had, I mean, there were people in the Capitol vandalizing things. That is not human decency. It is a crime. It
No,
is
so
not.
I like it. I'm appreciative that you're using the term
Mhm.
rioters and not the more radical and I believe incorrect term of insurrectionists. No, not
But that's also
rioters.
riot.
No,
It's still an insurrection.
I can admit to riot. However, I think that most of the rioters were provocateur at a federal level.
It was not. It was provocateur, sadly. But I mean, look, you can't disrupt constitutional authority. There's a procedure in place. To dishonor that is a crime. And I had a friend who once told me, you do the crime, you do the time. And, the way people have been treating this, I feel unsafe. I think a lot of us should feel unsafe. And clearly, this president elect doesn't like us. He
Beth, you need to
mocks people
stop
with
sowing
disabilities.
fear. You need to
I'm not
stop
trying to
sowing
sow
fear
fear.
among the
I'm
people.
not.
You just said everybody needs to be afraid.
I'm not saying they need to be. I was, and that's not what we need here as a country. I don't, however, think it's okay for someone to come on out and say that their opponent is a disability. I mean, look, it's the opponent's choice to talk about it. I don't tell other people's stories without their permission unless it affected me personally. For example, if someone had a problem with aggression, I would say I was confronted with that aggression. I'm not going to go around saying that someone is demented because it's against their privacy. If they want to talk about their disability, their dementia, their diabetes, their cancer, that is their story. But what I heard from the Trump camp was a disrespect for the democratic process. The opponent called names. The stuff that I saw that, he had said, people saw it, they recorded it. I was I was appalled. I mean, okay, so then he has to talk about disability like it's a joke. And I'm like, here I am, I'm a blind woman
Beth, can you please
and
tell
I
me
can't.
when did you see President Trump even speaking about disabled people?
Oh, well, what do you mean? It's
Give
been
me an
recorded. I
example,
saw it
please,
all
because
over the internet.
I've never heard
Well,
President Trump even speak about disabled people, but I'm sure
well, it's
because of how great he loves the rest of America, he'd probably love us disabled Americans just as much.
really, I mean, after what he
Yes.
mocked a reporter with a disability, that isn't okay. He mocked a journalist. He was like, the
Yeah,
way
well,
he,
journalists need to be mocked.
no, they don't. They're just recording news stories. That's
We
part of
know,
freedom of the
you
press.
know what, Beth? The best part of America is our freedom of speech, our ability to mock each other and
And with
make sport of each other.
and with freedom comes responsibility. With great power and rights comes responsibility. I'm not going to come
Well,
out here.
Nancy Pelosi denied the security detail.
Oh, yeah, that's
What?
right.
Nancy Pelosi denied the security detail.
Yep.
For who?
You're talking about
She was in on
January
it,
6th.
probably.
I
Which
don't
means she
She was
was
recall
in
that
on
she
it.
she probably was. I don't think she was in on any of this. Okay? I'm aware of what happened. It was this, there were these, I mean, not just there were white supremacists among the rioters. There were people who were obviously in line with, we hate the fact that someone progressive won. Look, when someone wins and it's not you, the least one can do is congratulate them and move on. I learned this a long time in my life. When I lose a science fair competition, an election, a game, my response is not to do violence on the person that won or cause them a problem. My response
Who
is
that?
congratulations and move on.
Who did violence on somebody after winning or losing an election? Give us an example here.
Trump. When he
When?
lost to Joe Biden,
What violence did he do?
well, he did it through the other people. All those rioters in there, I was scared stiff. I'm like, okay, is that how it's supposed to? I mean,
First of
what
all,
on
Beth, those were not rioters. Some of them were demonstrators, And you
Demonstrators
can't hold Donald
that
Trump
walk
accountable for
into
what
a
other people choose to do. And frankly,
Mhm.
I bet you are the blindest blind person I've ever met.
What?
It's so
What?
obvious to us, most blind people in the rest of America. Donald Trump got
Really?
money
Is
all
that
that
how
money.
Back. Okay, come on,
Okay.
back.
Okay.
Let's calm down. Back.
Mhm.
There's no.
What?
Oh, I'm not laughing derisively. I just thought it was genuinely funny. The blindest blind person.
That isn't okay.
Okay.
Gino, can you
Okay.
please take this?
Can you? Yeah, but this is not. Yeah,
I
this is.
myself don't have any usable vision. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought
Okay,
it was
guys,
funny to
I
me.
know, but let's take this down a notch. Look,
Okay.
the point of this is not to make insults. Okay,
Mhm.
Right.
so let's take it down a notch. Obviously, Beth has her views on what she feels happened, and and other people have their views. But let's not do name calling, please.
No.
So let's take a quick commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay with us. Gino, can you play the commercial?
Yep. Okay.
Hi, it's me, Rebecca S. Meadows, the author, with my new book, Living on Borrowed Time, The Ravings of an Angry Survivor of Traumatic Brain Injury and Guardianship Abuse. It's available on Kindle Digital Download, Amazon Print on Demand, and on Audible. Please go check it out. And now, back to the show. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back after the commercial break. Are you with me, Beth and Brandon?
Yes, we are here.
I am with you. I need to step away for just a moment to take care of domestic cooking duties. So I will be right back to speak more with the panel in just a few minutes.
Okay, that's great. And in your absence, I'm going to take this opportunity to share with our viewers my new book. This is my new book. It's called Living on Borrowed Time, The Ravings of an Angry Survivor of Traumatic Brain Injury and Guardianship Abuse by Rebecca S. Meadows. It's available on Amazon Print on Demand, Kindle, and on Audible. And you can email me at beccameadows76@gmail.com to let me know what you thought about the book after you read it. Please, I would appreciate that. Um, and anyway, how are you doing, Beth?
Me? Well, I'm doing all right. I actually wanted to say that I really like the idea. Your book title is amazing. I do like that. There needs to be more written about that, but
About guardianship abuse?
oh yeah, there needs to be more
Yes.
written about that. And honestly, I don't really care who gets elected in the next 4, 8, 12 years. But what we really need to start doing is, I thought about it, and I think your work might be one of the foundations for the abolishment of adult guardianship in favor of
Listen, Beth, I
support.
already figured it out. What we got to do,
Uh-huh.
girlfriend, is we got to
Yes.
get you and me and
Yeah.
other survivors of guardianship abuse. And well, it doesn't really matter because I'll do it on my own,
But
even if you
I could
don't want to
help you.
join me. But we need to go
Mhm.
to Congress and we need to
Mhm.
get an amendment passed to the Constitution protecting
Mhm.
American citizens from these guardianship/conservatorships, because all they are legal
Mhm.
traps that enable these lawyers and these bankers to steal the property of innocent Americans.
Or to
And it
abuse
needs to
innocent Americans.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
they take our
Mhm.
constitutional rights away and they totally
Mhm.
abuse us. And you know what, Beth? It's been
Mhm.
my experience. I've met dozens of survivors of guardianship abuse in my time,
And
and
so
every
have
one of
I.
them's a woman. Every one of them's a woman. You know
You're
that?
right. You
It's
are
just one
right. And
more way to hold us back
Mhm.
in life. And
Mhm.
and that's why these guardianships need to end.
They do. And I think one of the first ways we could do is define guardian and what it is. I mean, guardian should really
Oh,
be the
listen,
language
listen.
reserved for what? Mhm.
Listen, guardian
Mhm.
and conservator are duly defined. What is not duly
Mhm.
defined, that needs to be clearly defined,
Mhm.
is exactly what the word
Mhm.
incapacitated refers to. That's what's
Right.
too vague.
Mm,
Because the
right.
definition of
Mm,
incapacitated in a legal sense is so vague, these lawyers
right.
are able to twist all kinds of BS to lock a person under one
Right.
of these damn things in an emergency
Mhm.
court hearing.
Right.
And they're
I'm I'm
bogus.
I'm I'm back, guys. Now,
Mhm.
would either one of you ladies
Mhm.
define Joe Biden as being incapacitated?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh no,
Yes.
no, no,
Yes.
no. Oh god.
Yes. Yeah,
Incapacitated should
he's
simply mean dead. Period.
no
Well, I did. Well, I did.
incapacitated.
It could.
Beth, Beth, there. I mean, there is such a thing as mentally incapacitated. I was not that the night they locked me under my guardianship. And Beth, I'm sure you were not
Oh
mentally
hell I
incapacitated when
wasn't.
they locked you under your guardianship either.
No, I was
But Joe
not.
Biden, heck yeah, he's legally and mentally incapacitated.
Wait a second.
And that's why I'm so glad he's not our president anymore.
Wait a second.
Hallelujah.
Okay,
I've
I've
been
got
praying
some
for
issue
this
with
week ever
that.
since the election.
Let me be clear. What is typical of these incapacitation things is, and I noticed because I watched Hulu's The Act, and there was an episode where Dee Dee Blanchard, who is was the mother of Gypsy Blanchard, was trying to file guardianship paperwork. But the lawyer Dee Dee hired said, look, I can't give you a guardianship because, and I think Missouri was smart, although other states aren't so. Um, for one, Gypsy had the capacity to talk, as I am right now. The lawyer asked a couple quick snippet questions about what do you do if you're sick? What do you do if you're injured? I could even ask Joseph Robinette Biden the same questions. Whatever you're seeing on the TV is not what we see behind the scenes, and we can't. But I'm going to bet you 1,000,000,000 poker chips that Joe knows how to still put his own shirt on, wipe his own butt, as I do. Um, he can talk. His tongue works, stutter or no stutter. And Joe also does have the capacity to talk about what I would do if I were sick. Those things, and the ability to not be aggressive. I don't know, but those things by themselves, this lawyer said to Dee Dee, I can't get guardianship over your daughter, and that should be the standard for anything. But even then, guardianship should really be for only children or pets, and it should be defined as a affectionate symbiotic relationship. So your dog, you're the guardian. I don't like the word owner anyway. And for the child, yes, guardian applies, but it is a natural guardianship as defined by the family bond, whether it's
By
adopted or not.
nature. By
End of
nature.
discussion.
Beth, what
Right.
is your point? What's your point?
The point is, these ideas that Joe is incapacitated do not speak to his actual abilities, which, from what, we should really be not making these inflammatory remarks about someone's mental capacity based on what we're here on TV. We
Beth,
don't know who
nobody
they are.
is.
We can't
Beth,
make judgments
listen.
like that.
Nobody's talking about Joe Biden's mental capacity anymore because nobody cares. He's old news.
Oh, I did ask the question. I did ask the question, and I could show some videos that really, really, seriously do
Are
honestly
you
make me. No, no,
serious?
I'm not being mean. I'm not being mean. I'm not. I'm
Right.
really not being mean. I really do. I am happy that Joe doesn't have to have all these responsibilities now because I really
Yeah.
do wonder, does he have, Parkinson's? Does he have dementia? I don't know. I'm not a
But should
psychiatrist or a psychologist, but he seems to have something going on that needs to be addressed.
Right.
But should we use that to put such inflammatory language out to the public and talk about his supporters the same way? I have already
No,
been
Beth,
the victim of
Beth,
such things too.
what
And so,
inflammatory language are you talking about? Can you please
well,
define that?
okay, the use of the word, for example, creepy, demented, mentally incapacitated, mentally disabled, to describe people like, and the way the expression was said, I've actually heard a couple of snippets just like it. They don't make anyone and shouldn't make anyone comfortable at all. Okay.
Beth, Are you saying that you're offended by some of the terms that have been used to describe creepy Joe Biden because you have
I
also
don't
been
care.
deemed incapacitated before, like he should be?
We shouldn't deem people incapacitated unless they're dead. Joe, if he's dead or unconscious, you can define him as incapacitated. I'm saying, I mean, just because of the way he talks, people make fun of it. We still have a public perception of people like Joe, and then we go ahead and jump on his opponents. Like we say, they're mentally disabled without even providing proof. You know, that is not okay.
All you have,
Sharing people's
Joe
personal
provided plenty of proof himself, Beth.
what? Well, look, we know
Yes.
that he had a
Have
stutter,
you
but is
not been
that
watching the news the last 4 years? Have you not been seeing his decline? It's been so sad to watch. Watching
do I
our
care?
president's mental decline the last 4 years, it's been
Do
terrible to
I?
watch as an American citizen.
Well, it's
Just
also been
terrible.
terrible to watch as his vice president got called mentally disabled again without privacy, without any respect for her privacy. And even more, that makes me
What are
wonder
you
if I
talking
think we
about? Who called Kamala Harris mentally disabled?
No, no,
who is
I'll just say this. I've never called her mentally disabled, but she was the one who almost outright refused to do interviews for the longest time.
I know.
why do you I mean, women have to face so much bull crap. If she did interviews, they would ask her questions about her hair. People make comments about her body. If I were in that position, I would not bother answering questions about
Beth, I
character
don't
either.
remember hearing Trump or anybody's make comments about Kamala's body. Who gives a fuck about her body? There was
No, it's
nothing
not
between
his.
her ears was the problem.
But that's what people do to women political figures. If they give interviews, if they're on camera, there are going to be judgments about their body or their hair or things they think. Women are sadly at a position to be abused on and off screen. That is not
Beth,
America
listen,
that
that's
I want
not
to
being
see.
abused, that's being judged.
It's
And
judged, and then we get risk.
listen, just
Mhm.
because people may look at a woman on screen or walking down the street and make a judgment call about that woman, if that woman knows herself and what her abilities truly are, that's all that really matters. It doesn't matter what the outside world thinks or sees. You know what I
But
mean?
that still determines how the outside world voted, apparently. I mean, when women try to run for president, people are
Nobody
making
voted
judgments.
against Kamala Harris because she was a female. That's the dumbest thing I've heard, Beth.
But that was part of it. I didn't say
It
all of
was
it.
not part of it. But listen,
If we've
if
got two
anybody,
female
if
candidates,
her sex affected the vote one way or the other, I think guys might have voted for her because she was female, because they like the idea of fantasizing about her. You know what I mean? I don't know. I've never even seen Kamala Harris. I don't know if she's good looking, but just the mere fact that she's a woman, there were probably some guys, some male voters who were fantasizing about her, and so she probably got votes just because she was a woman.
but there's
You know?
still a faction of males who do not want someone like Kamala having a job. This is
There's
my
also
problem.
women like me who don't want someone like Kamala being in the White House.
But Rebecca,
It doesn't have to
I
be
mean,
men who voted against her or who didn't vote for her, Beth. Hey,
no,
listen.
no, right? Because I've been supportive of female candidates in the past. I'm supportive of a female candidate right now. Don't We're still waiting on results. But no, I just feel like, okay, listen. So I watched and listened to in its entirety, verbatim. That's the kind of person I am. The concession speech given by Kamala, and I'm sure that wasn't an easy thing to do. And I do understand that. I mean, here's the interesting thing, right? So in 2016, my vantage point is that it's been disproven, but they said, Russia helped steal the election. Now in 2020, people like myself believe there were significant anomalies, major and considerable irregularities. So basically, it's said that we think 2020 was stolen, and I do think there are things that need to be investigated. But here we are in 2024, and I really, I really do think that I, again, and I'm not trying to trigger you, but I really do agree with President Trump that we have to try to, reach across the aisle. And, look, maybe we only grip each other's fingers, right? Maybe we don't hold hands. Okay. Maybe we don't. Or okay. Maybe we don't. But because in other words, I don't know if we'll ever see eye to eye, but in other words, we might not look into each other's eyes and say, "Oh, I love you so much," but we can look at each other's faces, right? We can look at each other's faces and say, "Listen, we have definitely different perspectives on this, but I think we both have the same common goal. Let's see if we can't work something out." It was said just today that the FBI foiled an Iranian attempt of assassination on President Trump, and I wouldn't be happy either if it had foiled an Iranian assassination attempt on Kamala Harris. That's ridiculous. That is not what we need because generally speaking, I'm pro Second Amendment, but generally speaking, violence has a tendency to beget more violence, and I don't think that's what we need.
And that's exactly where I was going. But what I heard was at the moment I heard he had been elected, what I saw was something about how he wants to deport a US citizen, Jack Smith. I'm like, wait a minute. We're supposed to be using checks and balances. And a lot of the stuff that I was seeing that it was reported he said was like, okay, so you want to go after people just because they didn't let you have what you wanted. It sounded like this overgrown, violence infused temper tantrum. And I'm like, I'm not going to be victimized by this stuff. I had
No, and
already
you shouldn't be victimized. But what I heard him say was that success will be our retribution. So he did say we will initiate the largest mass deportation of illegal immigrants. He did say that, and I'm supportive of that. You have to come into this country legally.
Right, but what about? Okay, that's another story. But the way he talks about immigrants, however, it is tainted with all kinds of incendiary language. He said some ethnic group was eating dogs and cats. Never seen that. He has made generalizations about certain groups, calling them rapists and such like that. I have never seen a more incendiary, outrageous line of thinking in my life. I mean, there was never anything so uncivil.
Well. See, and I think you are going to have to sort of adapt and listen. Okay, you and I think can find common ground in that.
I think we can.
I remember. No. Listen, I remember how godsmacked I was in 2020. And I've heard people this year saying, I don't understand how could this have happened. So I know that, but what you said, getting back to what you said about the rhetoric and things, Donald Trump is from New York, right? Right. And this is what I mean. This is more, Donald Trump does tend to value and applaud and reward strength. So you're going to have to adapt to, yes, some of his language might be abrasive. Even I have said, like, Donald, you got to try to speak more presidentially, man. Come on. But
what really bothers me is he doesn't even have a dog in the White House. And most other presidents would get like every other president I knew of in my lifetime, they at least had one damn pet, which when the American people know that they got a dog in the White House or cats or whatever, they see it as a more, even I'm a dog and cat lover, so.
Beth, are you sure President Trump didn't have a pet in the White House?
He didn't. I swear to God, there were no dogs and cats. And everyone was
I'm
like,
gonna have to, when he gets back in the White House, I'm gonna have to write him an email about that because I feel that the presence of a pet in your life, especially a dog, cannot be replaced. The benefit there, and our president definitely needs a dog in his life. I'll definitely have to send him an email about that.
Every president needs a damn dog. Every president. If you get elected, like even what the dogs, I liked
But
Beth.
give
I
him
think it
time,
was.
Beth. He's got a lot of
Mhm,
other things he has to
mhm,
solve before he finds a dog,
mhm.
right? He's got to solve the border problem that Kamala
Ugh.
created. He's got to solve the
Oh,
inflation crisis that she created. He's got to
actually,
solve the
mhm.
health problem that she created. He's got to
Health
solve all
problem.
these problems that she created. He'll get to that.
She didn't create any of it, honestly. I remember when 2020 was about to begin. He was still in. I remember, like, for example, there would be a year before that I might go out to a restaurant like Olive Garden. It was hopping, and yet Trump comes in. We had, I think he scaled back some programs having to do with infectious disease prevention, and now here comes COVID. By the way, my son got COVID, is recovering from long COVID. His dad nearly died of COVID. That wasn't okay. And I mean, I'm just saying. But as far as the way things looked in 2020, I swear it was as if I were living in that book called Contagion. There's a movie based on the book, and it's like there were nobody out in the streets. We were hiding out in our little pods. We were all
Oh, Beth, we
social
all remember
distancing
how
and drinking
terrible that time was. It was awful.
yeah, and we all had to wear a mask. But then I also recall going to an Olive Garden in that year. There was no one in the friggin' building, and it's like the
Yes,
capacity being
that, but
so
Beth, that was a
low.
few years ago, and we're trying to talk about like the
Mm-hmm.
election that's gone on that just happened, and the
Yeah,
stuff happening
I get
between
it,
these two
but
candidates, and our
but
like, like Beth,
Trump did.
what do you? So
Mhm,
so I'm going to talk about some of the things I'm excited for with this new
mhm.
administration, and we can go around and
Okay.
say the things we're excited for or the things we're dreading, right? If you're
Right.
dreading things. I'm
Uh-huh.
excited that the prices of everything are going to go down so I can
Mhm,
afford to save some money again because I haven't been able to save anything since Joe Biden got into office. And I'm dipping into savings, and so I'm so excited that President Trump's going to bring the costs down of all this terrible inflation. And
mm,
likewise, I'm excited that the cost of housing will come down so my friends
mhm,
will be able to afford rent better and housing better.
mm,
And I'm excited that the cost of transportation will come down so people can afford to get around better. And I'm
mm,
excited that President Trump is gonna um round up the criminal aliens who are in our country and send them
mhm,
back home. And I'm
mm,
excited that we're going to finally have someone in the White House again who's going to have our back as Americans and who's going to really do what's
mm.
best to make America great again. I remember what it was like when President Trump was in office before. Like, listen, we're all members of the blind community, and during that time when Trump was in office the first time, many of my blind girlfriends were buying houses on their own. They were starting up businesses on their own. They were doing these amazing things. I started my business in 2019 when Trump was in office, right? That's when I opened Blue Butterfly Enterprises, right? And now
Mm,
I've also opened BBE Entertainment, and Becca's World is
mm,
growing, and my books are growing, and we have so much great stuff going on here, but it started when Trump was in office. And like I said, it
mm,
was happening to so many of my blind friends. We were getting
mm.
opportunities and stuff was happening for us, and
Well,
my
not everybody
African
got
friends
those
too.
opportunities. Not
What
everybody
did you
got
say?
those not everybody had those opportunities, and it all depends upon your circle of friends.
Well,
And
no, it
every
all
single one of
depends
the
on it
Mhm,
depends on the go-getters in life. There are many blind people
mhm.
who are go-getters. They don't sit at home and feel sorry for themselves, Beth. They get out there and they
Not that
make
I can,
things happen in their lives.
I understand that, but it seems that every one of the things you were excited about had to do with money. For me, I am dreading. I mean, you said something about criminal aliens.
Right.
Well, sending them back to places like Mexico and Venezuela is saying we don't care about your safety. I'm sorry, but
Now,
I
Beth,
have
listen.
friends who came from Mexico and their country is a mess. I mean, they keep electing
Beth,
macho
Beth,
got
as a
cartels
blind
and
mother,
poor country.
Beth, how do you feel when you're standing out on the corner there in Colorado with your young son, who's, I'm not going to mention his name, but I know his name,
No.
who's under 3 years
Yeah.
old, when you guys are standing out there waiting for the bus and you're approached by an illegal immigrant who wants money or who wants some kind of support in life, and he can't understand what you're saying because he or she can't understand English, and he or she may become violent with you or your little boy. You know what I mean?
Well,
I
I
know
understand your
I know your
concerns.
ex. He's a dear friend of mine, and he's told me how he feels when he's out there with your guys' son and those illegal aliens approach him up there in Colorado. It terrifies the hell out of him. He's
And
worried
he
for the
nearly
safety
killed
of
me
your
in 5
son.
seconds flat. I'm not
Yeah,
joking. He nearly
Beth.
killed me in 5 seconds flat.
Right,
And
Beth.
he's
You
even made
exaggerate
derogatory.
everything. You
Right.
exaggerate everything because you're one of those people who always has to be the
No,
victim. But this is
no, I'm
about our
not always.
country, Beth.
Actually, I
It's
was
about
the
our
victim.
country.
I
And you need to think about your little
and
boy. Do you
he
really
does
want
not think
Malcolm growing
about
up
what he support.
in a country where he has no opportunities? Because there's nothing left because it's all been stripped bare by all these illegal aliens who come into our
Okay,
country?
okay.
Do you really want Malcolm as he grows up to not be able
Do
to
I
Well,
be
really
on the
want my
streets
son
because the crime
to?
is getting so bad out
Can
there
somebody
already?
let me speak? I want my son to grow up in a country where we are respecting one another and not making derogatory remarks about women, where his father teaches him that I am a worthy mother. And he hasn't even demonstrated that up to this point. Talking about humans as illegal makes them feel horrible. I've been sort of in a position where these other people have, albeit I'm a citizen of the United States, but I cannot expressly support xenophobia because it only divides us. No one even wants to help me because everyone's afraid that I am an illegal something, or they just don't like it. My concern is we're not even hiring blind at all. As it is, I have a Somali friend that I was in a relationship for some time, and he embodies what it is to be American. He not only came here from Kenya, and Kenya had a school called Thika High School for the Blind. Well, he came here, went to Colorado Center, graduated with, got his GED. I was at the graduation, mind you. And this man went on to find ways of obtaining the resources he needed. He did volunteer work with an initiative that helps victims like myself. And to say that I always want to be the victim, it's incredibly disrespectful to the experiences I went through because of someone who used the rhetoric we saw over the last years since Donald Trump even came to politics to abuse me, to bring in incendiary rhetoric against everyone I know, to talk smack about women, myself, even his own wife on TikTok. This is not the country my son needs right now. What he needs is a country that doesn't tolerate violence against his own mother and other women, because he needs to know how to have a healthy relationship. He needs to know what he is not supposed to do and what he can do for someone he loves. But what we are seeing here, even in this conversation, is such disrespect for what I have to say.
no. Okay, but listen, I didn't call you that name, and as a male Trump supporter, I don't support toxic masculinity against women. I don't support segregated pay, segregated working environments. But I am the kind of person that I gotta inject just a little bit of levity into it here. I mean, we've heard the phrase, right? Like, if blue jeans can't stop the smell of a fart, what is a mask gonna do to stop the spread of COVID? Right? I didn't like that whole thing where they masked us up and locked us down. I did not like that, and I so, but I don't. I mean, getting back to this election, I don't. I mean, I am sorry, really, genuinely sorry because you do seem to genuinely feel the emotion of fear, and I am sorry about that. I said earlier, I hope that you can find it within you to develop some grit, some resilience. And I'm not saying you don't have it, But I think
No, but
I think you might need it because yes, you may see more things that can be construed as incendiary, and you know what? People like me aren't sorry because they're illegal. Okay, we want people to come here.
humans
We
are
do.
not illegal. Human
Yes, they
beings are
are.
human beings.
They
What
are, they're
makes
illegal
anyone say
aliens,
they're
Beth.
illegal? There
They're
is,
Be-
look, they're just human beings. And
undocumented persons.
so what if they are? And what is going on in their
That's
home
what makes
countries?
them illegal.
So is it
That,
okay to just leave them there to get tortured and killed because we don't like them?
no, but it's not okay for them to just illegally enter America. They have to come in
But it's
legally.
not okay to turn them out either. We're just putting them
Yes,
in a
it is.
position
It's
to
okay to
die.
turn them away if they don't come in legally.
How can
Everybody,
they come in
there's a
legally
front door and
when
a
we
back
are
door,
putting
and they're trying to
barriers
sneak in
in
the back
front of
door.
them? Okay, let me explain. This whole talk of illegals is leading people to make fun of anyone and everyone who speaks Spanish at a grocery store. I've seen a few stories of that. And there are people
Make
who are
fun
even
of
telling,
people speaking Spanish at a grocery store? Give me a break, Beth. There's much bigger things at stake here than making fun of somebody who speaks Spanish at a grocery
but this
store.
kind of calling these folks illegal, not just that, but he even tried to ban Muslims. I have a friend who is Muslim. She wears her hijab, and people have said, go home. Well, you know what? That was an insult to her. This woman has family that
Yes,
goes
but
all
we
the way
have freedom
back.
of speech in America, Beth. And
Yeah, well,
sticks,
telling this
have you heard
woman
the
to go
phrase
home,
sticks and
she's
stones?
already home. Did I say freedom of speech with responsibility? It was not responsible to insult my friend. She has family that dates back to the beginning of our country, the Revolutionary War. I mean, it's old. She's already home.
Beth,
And
listen,
we want to
I'm
let
really
somebody do that?
shocked that I'm
well,
really
I would I
shocked
would
that
I would question: does she feel like she's already home, or is she
She
an
is
actual
home.
you? Well, by that do you mean to say that she is a U.S. citizen?
Yes, she's freaking born, bred in the United States for generations. She just happened to convert to Islam. And this type of rhetoric has consequences. We are making fun of Muslims because a guy said stuff about how they're terrorists. And if we say one more word about
Beth,
people
I
being,
haven't heard anybody making fun of Muslims. I don't hang out with people who make fun of people because of their race, religion, or any other reason. And I wonder who you're hanging out with who is making fun of Muslims and stuff.
well, do you want to know what happened when I converted to Islam? This will
What
tell you.
happened?
I had people tell me, remember 9/11? Well, why didn't I? No, I did. These people abandoned me. They left me because I converted. I also had some psychologists say I was pretending to be Arab. This is Islamophobia in America. And now we have xenophobia
I didn't
getting
even know
worse.
you had converted to Islam. Could you share some of your Islamic faith with me? Because I haven't
Of
learned
course.
much about it. Can you just share
Well,
some of your Islamic faith with our viewers and
Well, and I
share with
do
us
wish
what you've
I'll
learned?
just say I do wish that the Arab American communities, both Arab and Arab American communities, would have had a more decisive response. Because yeah, I do admit that there are pejorative things said about them. There are
well,
pejorative
there's
things
plenty
said
of us.
about a lot of people, including blind people, and I think it's up to us and our communities to respond to that. And if we don't, yeah,
And to live
I do agree that under
and
the
to set
Trump
a higher
presidency,
example than what is expected because of those rumors, right?
Right, but here's what happened. I can tell you that as I had been a Muslim, I wanted to eventually maybe even build a life around this faith, but I couldn't because, well, for one, I wasn't going to marry someone who would have demanded complete, I mean, submission my butt. I mean, there are good Muslim men who would treat me as a woman with a lot of respect.
What do you mean
But
submission my butt, Beth? If your Muslim husband wants you to submit, you can't say to him submission my butt.
no, not like that. Look, no religion could ever condone violence against women, although there are countries that do. And now, here in America, we still seem to be doing so by virtue of people
The
not
Sharia
willing to
law.
take my victimization. Sharia law, okay, but the true thing about Sharia was women wanted their rights acknowledged in the beginnings of what would become Islam. And I know that In Islam, people greet each other, Assalamu alaikum. But in the Judaism, they say Shalom o alaikum. It's extremely similar. But what's sad is that we can't even
Ladies
come
and gentlemen,
to.
please don't. I don't want our viewers to think that we have
Mm,
presented you as an expert in any of these religions that you're making
mm.
reference to. You know,
No, but I've
so
studied about. I mean, I've studied about these things, and
yeah, I just
I
want to
just.
clarify for our viewers because
Mhm.
I just don't want our viewers to think that you're some kind of expert in these religions and
Well,
what they
I'm not.
do.
I'm
So
not a legal scholar, but it's like oftentimes I've been around the block. I've done much thinking about it, and to be honest, I got to be honest. I can't say that any religious community has ever been inclusive of a blind person in the ways that now, due to isolation, abuse, and the violence I had to deal with. Now, what the country says in their votes, I'm concerned I'll never even get a ride to church. No one's ever called me lately to even, no one near here. They don't even come over. They're not like checking on me. Are you hungry?
oh,
No,
Beth, I hope you haven't felt discluded by any branch of the Christian faith. There
I
are
have
many different
actually.
branches of the Christian faith. I've been a Christian my whole life, and there's
I'm
many
sure you have.
different branches of the Christian church, and I haven't seen
Mhm,
a single sect of the Christian church that
mhm,
is repellent to blind people, that try to push
mm,
blind people away. In fact, they've been
mm,
very loving and open.
mm,
I've had them give me rides to church. I've had them
mm,
welcome me to the
mm.
church potluck, even though I come in empty-handed because I forgot about it or I didn't read it in the bulletin the week before.
I
You
understand that,
know,
but
um, Christians tend
Well,
to
well,
actually be
and for
very loving
that,
towards blind people, and they'll pray for us, and they'll give us rides, and they're very helpful.
I would love
well,
to
Typically,
have served in this
for
program.
that matter, though, we have our own problems with exploitation and abuse in the blindness community, religion aside.
right? Yeah,
We do, and
exactly.
Hey, Becca,
case
Beth,
in point.
I would actually like to just interject something.
Mhm. Yes.
Not, I don't have an opinion on this. I actually am curious
Mhm.
because the conversation when you guys were talking about illegal immigration and then obviously xenophobia.
Mhm.
And obviously, Beth, this question is directed for you, but I would like
Mhm.
all of you to weigh in your thoughts on this.
Mhm. Yes.
According to the exit polling data by CARE, which is the Council of American Islamic Relations, Trump got 21% of the Islamic vote, and Kamala Harris only got 20%. So he actually got more votes from the Islamic community than she did. And
Mhm.
then Trump actually got 45% of the Hispanic vote. So I'm actually curious everybody's thoughts on this because Beth, is you know, you've made a lot of claims about obviously Trump supporters and the MAGA movement and Trump that about this whole deportation. So I'm just curious what everybody's thoughts are on those numbers because they are
Mhm.
relatively shocking to a lot of people, I think.
Mhm. Well, yeah. My problem with this whole well, care actually kind of shocks me in a lot of ways because for one, they don't care, no pun intended, about critical thinking. This group, the exit poll, this is kind of confusing to me because this same group was behind the disinvitation of an activist that I follow quite well. I am a huge supporter of the Ayan Hirsi Ali Foundation. She has been trying to work on ways of educating US and Western law enforcement and other folks about how to to curb the harmful practices in mostly the Muslim majority countries, but it's turned into this push to keep things like child marriage off our books here in the United States. But when I was reading her book called Heretic, she talks about she'd been invited to Brandeis University, but it was the CAIR, Council on American Islamic Relations, and some other folks. Apparently, she labeled them as anti-LGBTQ, and they really don't like that in Islamic circles. I've never seen a lot of them. In every Muslim country that we know of, gays, lesbians are simply, if they're caught being that way, they're killed, even extrajudicially killed. And to see that, CARE, they somehow pushed for the Islamic student people at Brandeis to disinvite Ayan Hirsi Ali because they claimed she was Islamophobic. That was not even the case. We do have the freedom to speak, but people making it difficult for people to critically think, even about our own faith, is not responsible free speech. To me, I have been deemed unsafe when I tried to bring up what my abuse looked like, too. I couldn't even criticize anything at all in my, let's see, Okay. I was not even allowed to criticize the abuses that I suffered or the way people said things to me. If I tried, I was punished. This is not a surprise. When you criticize what these big name groups say, you tell a Muslim you shouldn't be marrying off kids. Well, that's universally not a good idea. But I've also heard my ex say that girls in the United States don't marry appropriately. Child marriage is one of the things Muslims, they do get wired about. And that's why they didn't want Ayan Hirsi Ali there. But she has tried to expose the reality of these Muslim countries. They still allow child marriage. A recent article I read pertaining to an Afghan housekeeper.
Beth, how do you feel about the fact that they're trying to bring those Sharia laws here to America where we'll allow child marriages here? Do you feel that's okay?
I never said child marriage was okay. But
hold on, can I? Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I don't think they're wanting that. I don't think anybody wants child marriage anywhere in the world. I am such an against child marriage person. Like, even my son will not be allowed to get married until he's 18. No exceptions. The Ayan Hirsi Ali Foundation is fighting like hell to get child marriage off our law books. We need to have a national 18 no exceptions policy. I don't see Trump necessarily supporting that, but I don't know. I have to watch. I have to pray. But there are Republicans who have said they would use like traditional values as an excuse not to sign on. Here is a story to illustrate. We have a young woman named Sherry Johnson. At 11 years old, she was forced by her mother to get married to an old man so she would escape child abuse charges. This mother willfully allowed her little daughter to get fondled, raped, impregnated by a bishop.
A bishop of who? A bishop of what
Pentecostal church. It was
Are you sure it was
church.
Pentecostal? Because this sounds like Sharia law stuff to me.
This is not Sharia. This is Christian.
Where did that happen at? What state?
Florida. And then what I heard was after Sherry was found pregnant, she was in the principal's and the mom pulled her out of school and made her get married. We can't have this kind of stuff in a country like America. We should be protecting our children. There was another survivor of possible like this in California. I don't care what state you're in. 18, no exceptions. You want to get married? 18, no exceptions. Because when
you sound like a principal or a judge or a parent or something.
Because I am a parent, first of all. But
yeah,
I do not
but you're
want
not
to
the parent of all these girls that you're saying all this.
It doesn't. I'm talking about the government.
Alexa, stop. Sorry, Beth.
The government needs to be better at protecting our children. We cannot, and
protecting our children
this is an
from
issue
what?
as well.
What are you talking about? Protecting our children from what?
We need to protect them from all forms of child marriage. We can't let somebody.
Can I just
Brandon?
Can I just interject here?
Hold on, Brandon. Before you do that, I just need to, because I wanted to fact check that because it was a very serious claim. Do you know when that happened, Beth?
I know that Sherry is like 50-something years old. She'd been recently
correct. So this happened in the 60s.
Right, but we still see it today.
No,
we still. There was
please
a survivor
find me a case. Please find me a case in the modern era, not someone who is, hey, this happened to me 50 years ago.
Okay.
before a
it
lot
was-
of the
there
modern
was a
laws in
woman
all
in,
these
I think
states
she
were
was what,
enacted.
2018 or somewhere in like the 2020 or 2010s. I'm trying to remember her name, but she was forced to get married by her dad. And it was something about punishment for not following religious dictates. I really don't want to say it was Christian or Muslim because I don't want to single out one religion or the other. But she ended up having to deal with abuse by this husband she was forced to wed. And I know the Ayan Hirsi Ali Foundation's own website has her story there. And it's activists like Sherry and this other woman, and there's more. There are stories on, I think it's THEAHA foundation.org. You'll find tons of stories there. And, you know, child marriage is still happening in this country today. We are seeing 15-year-olds. I mean, I saw the story and I'm like, are we even doing enough to protect? And then, of course, there was that recent big spiel about the raid in 2008 with the Yearning for Zion Ranch. There have been underage marriages reported in modern FLDS. I mean, this is a universal
Hold on for a minute,
global
Beth.
issue.
Beth, hold on for 1 second, okay? Gino, have you been able to verify any of the stuff she's talking about? Because I don't want us to get sued for slander for any of the places or people she's naming here.
Well, yeah, I don't think you're going to get sued, Beck. I mean, so Beth is just referring to things she's, heard secondhand or read. The only thing I can say is that Florida law in 2018, it is correct. They don't have specifically a ban on child marriage, but the law states that children under the age of 17 must have parental consent.
Right,
So
but
this
they
is where
need to be
the law
consenting
probably
to
needs
their.
to be revised because, as she's pointing out, if you're in one of these, one of these weird religious groups that the parent is like, hey, no problem to this young child, she can marry the bishop. So this is why they're still fighting for this, is because the Florida law in 2018 did not go far enough. Basically, it still includes parental consent for minors rather than a full ban.
We need a blanket ban
know.
on that too, because.
But that still has
and I
nothing
don't
to do
know if
with
that's,
the topic
and I don't
at
know if
hand.
that, well, and the only thing I would say is that's obviously a topic for a different discussion.
Right.
It's, if you do a ban on that, what if you run into an issue where you have a 15-year-old girl who has sex with her 15-year-old boyfriend and they want to get married, and now you can't because it's banned and it was completely consensual. Now their child is born out of wedlock. So, I mean, there are other factors too that a blanket ban may not solve.
But marrying children also means, I mean, to me, I am a parent, I'm a mom. I have seen the results of very, very few early marriages ever even succeed. It's so rare. I actually knew of someone who got married under 18 because she got pregnant by a boyfriend and the parents yelled at her, they punished her, took away her phone, kicked her out of the house. But sadly, her husband was later brought up on other types of abuse charges. She filed for divorce. It is not very likely that a young teen marriage is going to last, whether it's two teenagers or a teenage bride and an old guy. I mean, the old guy is going to die, or the teenage bride is going to come up and say, I'm sick of it. It happened in court cases prior. Elisa Wall and other people were tired of, and I'm afraid that this new White House, whatever, they're just going to ignore everything having to do with human rights. Rolling back the definition of domestic violence.
I want you to give us some reasons, some examples of some things that Trump has said or done that makes you think he's going to ignore human rights when he gets back into office.
Well, hold on. Can I
you making those broad accusations towards him?
Well, can I just interject here, guys, because this will still allow Beth to do that. She can both sort of rebut me and answer your question at the same time.
Okay.
Now, I can understand, Beth, how you feel when earlier you said you feel like you were not, permitted to speak and not, sort of in a sense denied dignity and stuff because of things that you faced in your past. Well, guess what? So was I. Okay. There were people that said things like, no jab, no job. Okay. What about that? What about the Great Barrington Declaration that was signed by many, 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 many high level medical professionals, and it was completely ignored for a political agenda. So I also know what it's like to be marginalized and isolated and segregated and discriminated against as someone from the right of the political spectrum.
Right. But I really don't care if anyone's left or right. What Trump's administration did prior was they narrowed the definition of domestic violence to only include physical assault. But what I went through didn't just include, there wasn't really sexual coercion until
How are we
I
back
kicked the boy
talking
out.
about her
Okay, can
domestic
we,
abuse
don't
again?
interrupt. No
Beth,
interruptions,
Beth,
please.
stop going back to your alleged
I'm
domestic
trying to
abuse.
talk about what the definition of DV is, and I got interrupted. Okay.
We're talking about the election
And I am telling you what's going to happen because I know what happened prior. Domestic violence is a wide range of abuses. I have used the resources due to the abuse I went through. I was financially, emotionally, physically, psychologically, and recently sexually abused in terms of coercion. I was coerced not to seek help after I was physically assaulted. And I am now going to have to prove a billion times more that I was assaulted, and nobody can believe me. We face such pressure to make people believe our stories that our voices don't matter to the electorate or the populations around us. And for me, thanks to all that disbelief, Trenton isn't here. I don't have anybody. My ex Trenton, one of my best friends I knew, is not here. I lost a friend from high school. I lost so many people. I couldn't even go out of my door to go to a church without them going, you need to have somebody accompany you. I am not happy. And now, with the narrowing of the definition, this last administration quietly rolled back the rights of women. I was devastated with the loss of Roe v. Wade. I mean, look, you're turning a bunch of us women into the capacitive handmaids, vessels for men we don't care about. If that's the case, I would rather be pregnant with someone and be able to carry the baby to term. I was damn lucky I was able to carry my son. I gave birth to him, was lucky that both of us survived. What would have happened if I had a problem
So President-elect Trump says that it's a bipartisan decision, that both sides of the aisle wanted it to go back to the states.
I don't believe it. And then Florida makes a bad choice to ban it after 6 weeks. I didn't even know I was pregnant until 8 weeks. And even then, I lost a twin at 11 weeks. It was a twin gestation to begin with. And the prenatal people said it was just that the one twin died at 11 weeks. You think what if I couldn't have carried my son? You're going to tell me, well, too bad, we're not allowed because it's a 6-week ban. Okay, well, too bad, you're going to die. Florida has it set up so you can't even get an abortion in that state. And, I'm so outraged.
Trust me. I live in Arizona, but you know what? Here, unfortunately, the abortion ballot measure did pass. So now it will be considered a woman's fundamental right to have an abortion.
It should be a woman's fundamental right, and especially if the doctor says, for example, look, I knew of someone with a heart-shaped uterus, physical things preventing her from carrying a baby. Well, if we have the right to do so, we can also do contraception. I already have a Nexplanon in my arm, which was put there after my son was born. With such an administration that callously disregards the rights of women, you now have to fight, or you have to hear the words, we're not going to cover if you want contraception, because the hospital can say, we're Catholic. You have to do it our way. Well, you know what? I was a Roman Catholic once. I got denied so many rights. I was abused because of a blind woman and all that. Why would I want to support a church also? I don't care. I mean, there were too many Catholics in every church I've been to that are more tooting a political horn. Where is the spot where we can say go to a baptism and not talk about abortion? What about a wedding and not decry people's right to love and marry who they want? What about a confirmation that just focuses on the sacredity of an event? What on
Well,
earth happened to that?
I mean, this is where, we're fundamentally different because
Yes.
I'm gonna use a term that you seem to take a certain amount of umbrage with, which is traditional American family value. I just think it's going to lead to vastly increased promiscuity, which is going to only further erode the traditional family structure, the nuclear family
Oh,
structure,
and that is
which
where, okay,
what go
Brandon,
ahead.
let me just say something. I got to be honest with you. The traditional that you said, that is why I was abused. Enforcing what you might call traditional values and all that can lead to further violence, and it did. Clayton and
Beth,
John and
don't
Brad
mention
and
any.
every other
Beth,
man in the world
You
is
need to
going
stop
to say
mentioning names, please,
what
because we have
traditional value. Okay,
a
okay.
small viewer
Traditional
audience.
values are why I was abused. Men thinking about where women stand, the yelling at me to submit to my authority. Where do you think that person got it from? It's happening a lot. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry who reads these ideas about traditional values, there's nothing traditional about strangling me half to death. There is nothing
No, no,
traditional
no,
about
no,
making me
there,
wear a
no,
dress.
no, there isn't, and I think that
No.
what people like that, in some cases criminals, and in some cases, I mean, things you spoke earlier kind of alluded to the burden of proof. I mean, but anyway, I think that there are people that serially misinterpret things either by omission or by convoluted thinking, right? Because this whole idea that us men are superior to you women, and that you must obey, you must be subjected to us, and subjective to us. I don't support that. I don't
Right, but
support
then
that,
when
because I believe the correct interpretation is that, look, Adam asked God, according to Judeo-Christian scriptural reading. Okay, and I'm just, he said, "There's no one like me. There's no other human. I need
right.
someone. I desire another human." And I think, right, and I think that's how it should be. I think that men and women can and should work together to complement one another.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean we can say, I mean, the traditional values thing still. I mean, I heard many my last boyfriend would say, I want a traditional woman. And I said, what do you mean? A traditional woman that just lets you beat her up? Because what I went through with this man was anything but decent. I mean, I don't care what traditional means to anyone. There is nothing traditional about what I was told. I was told to feminine up. I was told to, be feminine. His definition of feminine is so warped, but this is going on. There's a growing army of dudes, most of which were Trump people. I don't say every one of them is like it, but there's a growing number of these people that I should be worried. We all need to be teaching our boys and our girls relationship skills relating to consent, respect. That won't happen very easily. And I really wish Andrew Jackson would go out away from that $20 bill. I wish I could honestly say that we need to have more respect for Harriet Tubman. The last administration doesn't care. They would
God,
keep Andrew Jackson. I hated Andrew Jackson after what I have studied on and on. I would
See,
never
see, but
support
see,
someone
but
who,
I think we have to be careful though, see, because
right?
you just said, and I'm not trying to make you angry or anything, but you
Yeah.
just said basically, I don't care about tradition. See, that's very incendiary to people
But
like
what
me. We take umbrage. It's
traditions
like,
are
look,
there to
and
what
you said,
traditions are
you
there
don't
left?
like the idea, of being known as a feminine woman, and people like me are like, what do you mean? What's wrong with being a feminine woman?
There's nothing. Look, feminine is so redefined as silent. Let me beat the crap out of you if you don't do what I say. That's what I was forced to accept. And there is a growing number of men who think that. I get why the toxic masculine thing makes you uncomfortable, but you know what? I also had the pleasure and honor of working with people who were experiencing these same feelings around race. And you know what? We all have to be uncomfortable. We have to learn to get past it, sit with it. We've got to stop.
No, I'm comfortable being Caucasian. I'm not
I'm not
uncomfortable with it
saying
at all.
no, I'm not saying you should be uncomfortable with being white. What about uncomfortable being against every other race? I'm not saying you are racist. No, I had the pleasure of working with people. We were kind of breaking apart how we accept and or deal with racism. I mean, for me, it's like I couldn't imagine a world worse off when I, for one, don't call 911 when a black guy is barbecuing outside. I mean, black people are simply doing what everyone else does. And
But many
as we're
many people across ethnicities and races called the cops on us, again us, also many other kinds of people for having barbecues in 2020.
I've
That's
never
being
heard
blind
that at
people.
all before.
Are you talking
You
about
I've
as
what?
never.
blind people, Brandon?
Oh,
No. I mean us as men, us as women, us as tall people, us as short
Well,
people, us as every.
that should realize how misunderstood the people, how easy it is for people to misunderstand things. Because as blind people, how many times, like, have we had the cops and shit called on us for crazy misunderstandings?
Well,
Like,
and I do agree. Racism is a disgusting
yeah.
aspect in the world. I don't think it's only unique to America, unfortunately,
So
but
is
it
not.
is
Shut
rather
up.
disgusting.
but all people go through that shit, that kind of stuff, like we do as blind people, you know? And
We're
tall
not the
people go through
same.
it, and short people go through it, and fat people go through it, and you know what I mean? And blind people go through it, and people of other races go through it. People who don't speak English quite well go through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We
So
all
why do
go
we
through
want to
it.
continue to support this stuff? And look, the idea that feminine that I have seen, I seriously could have died when it was July 26th of last year. And albeit I understood what was happening, but I didn't know what would happen next. There is nothing traditional about subjecting anyone, me included, to being told that neo-feminism doesn't work on me. I had no association with such an obscure and or pejorative line of whatever. After something as simple as a wick card argument, I was then told to give up my child. I told the man to leave my house. He refused. I run into my son's room. He choked me against the wall, and I don't know what the heck, but it was like the last move I remember was I'm face down on the floor. He got so angry that I called the cops. Well, you know what? I got hurt. No one deserves to hurt me and get away with it. That already happened too many times. My parents, professionals, and because of all that, people, members of the blind community, have left me with no choice but to beg for money and steal. And I have
The
Well,
unfortunately been, I've
well,
been verbally
and I'm
attacked
not.
by people. I was verbally
Well,
abused by someone who should have helped me, and he just said that all I do is
right,
ask for money and no
that's
one
not
hires
okay.
me.
Yeah,
No,
right, and
and it's
that's
only
not
going to get
okay.
worse. It's only going to get worse.
I really hope that it doesn't, and I don't think that what the nation decided is in terms of the president elect will contribute as significantly as you do. I mean, I
I,
really hope not. I think we're about much more than that, and I think we're much better than that.
Beth,
I
just
I
hope
for
you're
mean,
right.
clarification purposes, can I clarify something?
Yes.
Okay, because this is supposed to be about the election. Beth, did you vote for Kamala Harris?
I did, and that's why I'm so offended because I saw that video my last boyfriend posted that said F Kamala and her supporters. I felt so insulted by that stupid title that I couldn't vote for someone like that. Why would I want to vote for someone who says F the person that stands with you and you, her supporter? You don't deserve to be valued. I mean, this person even said that I didn't deserve safety and respect. I've spent
No,
so
no, no,
long
no, no,
trying
no. So
to.
no. So you do deserve safety and respect. You
Okay,
do,
I
and
hope you're
I.
right.
But now again, like you said earlier, the freedom of how did you word you believe in the freedom of speech, but basically
But
with civility, like
yes, and this kind of stuff is so uncivil. With great power comes great responsibility, and that were the words of Uncle Ben from Spider-Man. What we're seeing here is unchecked power and freedom to hurt, no responsibility. I haven't seen one responsible act from any of the people who had run out from me recently, caused abuse, pretty much threw me to the wolves, and tried to disparage me every friggin' TikTok video. I never heard an I'm sorry with actions either. If there were actions, I would have heard an I love you and I'm sorry, and even turning into authorities. I mean, there are ways to deal with it other than undermining me as a person, not scheduling your child's doctor and dental visits. I mean, co-parenting with this man is like I'm talking to my brother who would not clean up his room. This is what the election will further solidify. Men like this, I mean, not you, Brandon, but there's a good portion of men that are just like, they make me sick. I want a boyfriend who will act like an adult, who will talk to me like a friend. Everyone deserves that. I'm not going to tell this man, get your butt out of bed and go to work. I'm not going to slap him upside with a newspaper if he doesn't get out of bed. That's his problem. I shouldn't have to tell him thousands of times or even implement a choir of angels to say something or sing, please schedule your son's doctor visit. I'm not in charge of that. That is not my responsibility. And we are going to codify that?
Hey, Beth.
Heck no.
Beth, I have a great idea.
What?
Hey, guys, you guys just heard Beth describe the kind of man she is and is not looking for. If you're interested in being that man, you can email Beth at, Beth, would you like to give your email address?
Do I
So
want a
any
man?
guys who might want to become your new man, since you're looking for a new man, they can email you?
Actually, Becca, I've got bad news. I could give my email address, but I'm not looking for a new man because I've already got enough to deal with as it is. My last
and
man
and and
put
I
me
would
through.
and I would just say I don't think you need a man in your life
No,
either.
I don't.
However, please understand that we are not all despicable monsters. Some of us
I
are,
didn't say
but
I didn't
what
say you
some of
wouldn't
us are,
though.
but we're not all that way. Now,
Right.
and I can, to your point, I can understand,
Mhm.
presidential acts have been ruled immune by the Supreme Court of the USA. However, I really, I mean, I can't see things devolving into lawlessness and bedlam, and that does not at all resonate with what I'm hoping for in this presidential administration.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it
I
doesn't
see it.
line up with history or what we're seeing on the ground or anything, really.
Well, maybe you're right, but what honestly, I'm afraid of lawlessness. No, it will be the exact opposite. I am afraid of such rigid control, muting. I mean, example, The Handmaid's Tale portrays a world in which us women are not allowed the letter and the number. We get to do nothing but sit around coloring into books, symbols.
Beth, are you
Now
saying you
let's
think
learn
life under
typing.
Trump is going to be life such as
Uh,
described in the Handmaid's Tale?
and I've watched that entire series, by the way. So right,
You
I'm
have?
familiar with it.
Well,
Yeah, oh
I think
sure.
it's the beginning of it. I mean, if we keep electing consecutive people who can build on what this looks, I mean, I concern myself with I would rather our daughters as a people, the nation's daughters, need to be able to speak as I have. They need to write. I plan on starting a blog. They need to read. They need to speak up. They don't need men. And I sure don't want to be stuck learning embroidery. I don't care to do it. It's not my forte. I do not want to have to sew. To hell with that. Don't make me cook you anything just because you're a man. I mean, I could swap a plate of cookies with you, Brandon, if, like, let's say you said, man, I'd love to see you try. And I mean, it's only voluntary. I'm not going to be commissioned to wear some dull green outfit and cook because someone thinks it's so. I'm not going to sit here and watch as man president after man president slowly erodes our jobs, our buying power, our savings power,
Oh my God.
and
No,
our clothing.
and I feel like that's what this Joe Biden administration has done. However,
I don't
you know
know.
what, girl? I would cook for you, Beth, if you came to my house. You could have some lasagna. I'm not going to deny you that, right? Like we can disagree, but still be civil with one another. And you know,
That's
if you cooked something
precisely
for me,
it.
I would never ever say something like, "Yeah, that's what you should do, woman." I mean, that's incredibly sexist. That's incredibly chauvinistic. I would not at all be supportive of that. I mean, and I laugh because this is
Mhm.
2024, not the
But
1700s.
I
Okay,
get it, but there are guys who actually want that, and I've seen that from I mean, my prior boyfriend, mind you, was a good cook, but you know what? I'm attracted more than just to the cooking, but to a man who is actually going to act like a man. Like it's cool. I mean, I actually knew of a guy from Saudi Arabia who could cook like a chef. I mean, that's not normally what happens in those places, but that guy made delicious barbecue meatloaf. And okay, if any, a disclaimer, if any of you
Is
listeners,
he a
viewers
blind
get
guy,
hungry,
Beth?
ma, and if you guys mouth water, I'm sorry.
Beth, was he blind?
Yeah, he was a blind guy from Saudi. He was one of the program students, and he
Yeah,
had.
listen, that's what it
Mhm,
is. I'm
mhm,
realizing something. A lot of blind
mhm,
guys come out of these training centers really great
mhm.
cooks. So
Oh
any
yeah.
gals out there who are looking for a guy who is a good cook might think of looking at some of these blind guys that come out of these NFP training centers because
Oh, well, it
they can
doesn't
be
matter. I
really
mean,
cool.
blind or sighted, a guy that cooks is my kind of guy. It's like, I wouldn't care. I like it. I mean, my prior boyfriend, honestly, he could make the best friggin' chili. I liked how he would make tacos with like mango salsas. But what's more important than cooking as an attribute? It has to be that you just treat me like your best friend. If you really care about the positives I bring, don't you dare devalue me. But you know what? After all I've been through, I can't really get with someone at all. I mean, I've got my boy, and I don't want him to think that I would put myself up to be a sacrifice just so he has a dad. That happened to my own mom.
Alexa,
And my
stop.
mom, my mother, and her sister Kathy, my Aunt Kathy, I loved her so much. And my mom, unfortunately, she had me out of wedlock. And I've been searching for him for a long time. But my mom married
Searching for
someone,
who, Beth? Your father?
my bio dad. I searched for him for too long. And but then my mom married another guy that adopted me as his daughter. That
Oh.
doesn't always work out. And it's not always going to work out good or bad. I
So
mean,
do you know the name of your biological father? Because if he's watching the show,
mhm.
maybe he could contact you.
I don't know. Someone named Clark Hayes might be out there. I thought he
Clark
was
Hayes?
Texas A&M. I looked all over the freaking Aggie connections on the internet and stuff. My mom
Mhm.
kept saying that he didn't want me, but I don't know what to believe. But what I do
well,
know is that my
I'll say this.
mhm,
You know,
mhm,
I'm off the market. I'm a married man, but
uh-huh,
if I weren't, I don't know. You know, if
mhm,
you and I um
mhm,
could have a romantic relationship, I don't know if that would work. We might be a little
mhm.
bit too different, but I just like I'm tired of this these divisive attitudes in the country. You know what I'm saying? Like I
I
think it'd be
agree
cool to
with you
get
on
to
that.
know you, even though we have obvious
Mhm.
disagreements. That's okay. It
Well,
doesn't
it's
mean that
okay.
I have to throw food at you and you have to throw food at me. I'm tired of that.
No, Brandon, it's the little things that matter. Like if I called you up one day and said, "Oh hell, I had a horrible day at work. My boss is a jerk." And then I come home and I find chocolates on my pillow. That's fine. I don't care. You can throw little things at me if that's how you feel. I mean, heck, even, I mean, I think everyone is human first. And if you called me and said, I'm not going to be able to cook dinner tonight, you know what I'm going to say is, okay, what would you really like? I had forgotten that I'm not even home yet. We have tech. I would order you a pizza. It would be home when you got home.
Well, see, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think you and I really can be friends. I think now. I don't know, like in the areas where we disagree, because there do seem to be some. But listen, I'm versatile enough. I don't know if you would say, look, let's just not talk about that, or if you would, or if we could just banter and just know that, look, we're never going to agree. I mean, we can banter for a little bit, but we're never going to agree on this. But let's just yell at each other for a while in friendly fun. Like
I see nothing wrong with that, but I mean, the only thing I ask is if anyone ever got romantic with me ever again, that my body, mind, and spirit has to be respected, that I never have to hear another negative comment about me, even when it's licensed by someone. I don't care. Some celebrity can tell you that blind women like me suck because our noses look stupid, that we think that we can just lay around on our butts collecting child support. That is not what I'm about. I don't care. You've got to look past the noise. Look at me right in front of you. I'm trying to change what it means to be blind, just like the rest of you guys might. I mean, you and Becca. I am doing my freaking darndest. I am even going back to college in January. The last thing I need to be told is that I was never a revolutionary because I wrote off somebody's coattails, that I'm not worth anything as a leader and a mother.
well,
I am
listen,
just a woman. That is it.
No. See, I take umbrage with the word "just" in that statement. You are well, and again, I don't know how
Well,
you
I
even
mean,
feel about the term woman versus female, but I no people I think have the right to say those things, but you've got to know, girl, that sometimes people are just wrong. Okay,
well,
they're just
I get
wrong.
it, but
Don't let that stuff stick to you.
I get it, but like what I wish people knew is that everyone has likes and interests, and I wasn't loved for my likes and interests, not unless it suited the other person. I mean, and to hear that crap from a celebrity or a influencer, that really angers me because I mean, I'm just a girl who loves animals. I like food. I'm a musician. I'm a gifted, talented writer. I can laugh. I can make jokes. I can come up with the craziest things if you ask me a question. I'm not just a birthing utility. I'm not just someone's
No, you're
sex
not.
object. I
No,
am
I
something
agree.
that thanks. And I
I
mean,
agree. I
people
agree
just
with you.
right. And if someone had just taken the time to understand that their words, their actions hurt, I would not be sitting here today talking as I do now. I would not be yelling out loud. I would not be asking that someone, if they want to burn me, that they burn with me. I would not be standing with a plane behind me in some proverbial sense, saying that if these guys are allowed to continue being elected subsequently, that we have an internet already that's a wild west. We're going to be locked out of the internet. We won't be allowed to come on shows like The Blind View. We're just going to be sitting around with a sewing machine. We might even be limited to 100 words a day. I mean, I read this article, a book called Box. It actually has some idea of what's happened. Look, I don't want to be the woman who is wearing a darn bracelet. And if I mean, I don't even know how many words I speak a minute, but being limited to 100 words a day, and if I go over 100, I'm shocked. Heck no. This is our world. And let us not forget that in every indigenous tribal thought that I've ever seen, the mother is earth. When I gave birth to my son, I became the conduit of other women, of Mother Earth. I felt such a deep connection to the life-giving force that this earth is. And
Alexa,
to
what time is
mistreat
it?
and to mistreat a woman is to mistreat the planet we walk upon. That is the thing I was worried about most.
Hey guys,
Well,
time
I
middle
mean, again,
care.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you do feel these feelings of fear, but I believe in your ability to heal, though. And I'm not even saying, I like it actually. You were critiqued by the host of the show earlier, but I personally don't mind that you name drop. I actually like it that you use your voice in a loud manner. That's okay, with me at least. But I think maybe we're gonna maybe need to wrap soon, but wrap it up.
We do.
But I hope that you will seek out healing because I believe in your innate worth, value, and abilities as a woman. Just as I hope that you'll recognize that although you may see it less often, I also have worth and value and abilities.
We all
So
do. We all do. I mean, if we just use it for the greater good, and that's all I want to do. In fact, I want the nation to heal with me because that's what we need today.
I
That's
agree wholeheartedly with that.
yes.
Okay,
So
so
I
are
mean,
we
yeah.
agreed we're gonna wrap the show up, guys?
Yeah.
Are you guys
All
both
right.
done?
We're
Are you
good.
guys
Yeah.
okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you guys for staying with us for the last over 2 hours now. And I hope if one thing we've learned is that there are crazy, unhinged Biden Harris supporters, even in the blind community. And we all need to help these individuals because they're suffering greatly right now. So if you have any friends who voted for Harris this year, this last week or this last month, when maybe during early voting, please call him or her up and offer your condolences because they're suffering greatly. They may need a shoulder to cry upon, someone to hold their hand during this time. Okay, so show them love and mercy and the American way. You can email me at beccameadows76@gmail.com. And please subscribe to us here on Rumble. Please be sure to tell your friends about us and like, share, and subscribe. Peace out, y'all. That's the wrap. I'm your host, Rebecca S. Meadows, signing out. Bye. Thanks. Thank you for watching Becca's World. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel.
Wow.